My name is Dakota Gray, and I married Ayanna Redbird right after we both finished college. We had been together for 3 years by then. Even though we graduated at the same time, I was 3 years older than her. I had spent a couple of years volunteering overseas with the Peace Corps before starting college, so that explains the age gap. Both our families seemed pretty pleased about our marriage, but no one was happier than Ayanna's mother, Elsie. Elsie was over the moon about the whole thing. She really lived through all our engagement, the wedding plans, and the ceremony itself. You see, she never had any of that. She had gotten pregnant as a teenager, and her strict religious parents basically turned their backs on her. Later, when she was just 21, she married an older man named Thomas Redbird, not for love, but to make sure she and Ayanna had a roof over their heads and food on the table. Now, Thomas wasn't a bad guy. He was steady, worked hard, and provided for them both. But romance? That man was as romantic as a cinder block. He had already been married once before, and when they tied the knot, it was just a small courthouse thing. Nothing like the big celebration Elsie helped plan for us. Elsie was always someone I liked. She was only about 11 years older than me, so she never felt like a typical mother-in-law. More like an older cousin or a friend of the family. She was a beautiful woman, with kind green eyes, 3 inches shorter than Ayanna, and not as outwardly flirtatious or free-spirited, but there was a quiet grace to her. She smiled warmly, dressed modestly, and had this softness about her that probably came from all the hardships she'd faced. For years into my marriage, Thomas passed away from a heart attack. Honestly, it was not much of a surprise considering how he lived, but that did not make it any easier on Elsie. I took it upon myself to handle the estate and made sure she was never alone. I pulled her into our daily lives and her charity work to help keep her going. But when it came to dating again, Elsie flat out refused. No matter how many decent guys I knew, some even younger, she just would not budge. Then, a little after our 6th wedding anniversary, everything fell apart. I found out Ayanna had been unfaithful. I had not suspected a thing, so it hit me like a freight train. But I am not the kind of man to wallow in denial. Once I had proof, I packed a bag, checked into one of those long-stay motels, and started dividing up our finances. I honestly think Ayanna loved me, but she made a mess of things. She claimed her affair did not mean anything, that it was just physical, but that did not make it any easier. She told me I was blowing it out of proportion. I knew she had told her mom, Elsie, everything. While I never called her mom, I knew she was being asked to support Ayanna during the fallout. 3 days after I left, Elsie showed up at the motel. I was surprised, but glad to see her. I had always cared about her. I invited her in, and we sat on the couch. She reached over, took my hand, and said, "Dakota, I am so sorry. I swear I did not raise her to behave like that." I gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "I know, Elsie. You have always been a good woman. What Ayanna did is on her, not you. How are you holding up?" She had a tear in one eye. "I am doing my best, but this has been hard." "I will be okay," I said. It knocked the wind out of me, but I handled what needed to be done. I moved out. "It hurts, but I will get past it." She looked at me and asked, "Do you think there is any chance you might forgive her and go back?" "I don't know," I replied, truthfully. Especially since she thinks I am just being dramatic. I do not think she fully grasps what she has done. We ended up talking for over an hour, not just about Ayanna, but about life in general. When it was time for her to go, she gave me a hug that lasted a little longer than what felt normal, considering she was still technically my mother-in-law. She pulled back, looked me straight in the eyes, and said, "I hope you are not divorcing me along with my daughter. You will always have a place in my heart, Elsie," I told her. And I meant it. That night, I slept restlessly and woke up from a dream that left me sweating and confused. It was not appropriate, to say the least. A week after leaving, I officially filed for divorce. I told our landlord that I was no longer responsible for the rent. Ayanna was furious and confused by how firm I was being, but I had never pretended to be someone else. We had been together 9 years. She should have known how I was. The first few months were rough. Ayanna and her lawyer pulled every trick in the book. Tried to push counseling. Tried to guilt me. But I stayed steady. A couple of my single buddies stood by me, kept me focused. Elsie called me every week too, not just to check on me, but to tell me about her charity work and share hopeful stories. We started meeting up once a month for lunch. She always brought a good attitude, and it helped. 3 months in, we had our first hearing with the judge. It was a Monday afternoon. Ayanna wanted counseling, but my lawyer shut that down by showing the judge pictures of her having lunch twice with the guy she had cheated with, some guy named George. Even though she cried and said nothing physical had happened since I moved out, the judge was not buying it. The request for counseling was denied. It was clear the divorce was moving forward and likely to wrap up in about 3 months. The next day, Elsie called me at work, unusual, but not unwelcome. After the usual pleasantries, she got serious. Dakota, Ayana called me. She was pretty broken up. Sounds like things are really coming to an end. Yes, I said. It hurts, but I have to keep moving. My lawyer thinks we will have everything finalized in 3 months. I figured you might be feeling low, she said. How about dinner on Friday? Would it be too weird to go out with your almost former mother-in-law? I laughed. No disguise needed, Elsie. I would enjoy that. I just might not be great company. Do not worry, she said. I will make sure you eat well and smile a little. What time should I pick you up? I chuckled. I can meet you at the restaurant. Nope, she said firmly. I am treating you. No arguments. I will be there at 7 sharp. That night I had another strange dream. If they keep coming, I might have to see someone about it. Come Friday evening, at exactly 2 minutes past 7, Elsie showed up at my apartment. And I have to be honest, my jaw just about hit the floor. She was wearing a classy, low-cut top, a short skirt, and heels. Her makeup was subtle but highlighted those stunning green eyes, and her new hairstyle made her look like she was in her 30s instead of 43. She seemed a little nervous standing there. Wow, I said, trying to get my voice to work. You look incredible. She smiled, clearly relieved. Thank you. The restaurant is pretty nice, and I did not want to be underdressed. Is that a new outfit? I asked. Yes, she said, her cheeks coloring slightly. I bought this and a few other things this week. Elsie picked a fancy restaurant for dinner, one of those places with soft lighting, white tablecloths, and even a dance floor. I noticed on the way there, while she was driving, her skirt had crept up her thighs. It caught me off guard. She looked incredible. I tried not to stare, but it was hard not to notice. Dinner was excellent. The food was great, but it was her energy that made the night feel lighter. For the first time in a long while, I forgot about the divorce and everything else dragging me down. What surprised me most was her drinking. Usually she might have a glass of wine, but tonight, she ordered a whole bottle for the two of us. I only had 1 glass. She drank the rest. After we ate, she talked me into dancing. The last time I danced with Elsie was at my wedding to Ayana and maybe once or twice after Thomas passed. Back then, she kept things simple, reserved. But tonight, she moved like she had been doing it her whole life. After a few dances, she went to the restroom. I sat down to catch my breath. When she came back, I asked, "Where'd you learn to dance like that?" "You outdanced me by a mile." She grinned and said, "I've been taking lessons once a week for nearly a year." Was I any good? Are you kidding? You were one of the best out there. You even turned a few heads. I didn't notice, she said, cheeks a little red. Just then, a man came over and asked if he could dance with her. I was a bit thrown off. She looked so young and full of life, anyone would think she was my date. I managed to laugh it off and said, "Well, that's up to my mother-in-law." The guy looked confused, maybe a little embarrassed. Elsie laughed and touched my hand. "He's just kidding. But since this is only our second date," she added, teasing, "I don't want to risk losing him to someone else." The man smiled, kissed her hand politely, and walked off. "You're quite the charmer tonight," I told her. A waiter brought over a drink for her, a Bloody Mary, and a soda for me. I was about to say we didn't order anything, but she waved me off. I ordered while I was walking back. She downed that Bloody Mary fast. It was odd seeing her drink like that. Then we danced some more 5 or 6 songs, before she leaned in close and whispered, "I think I'm done. Between the drinks and all the dancing, I need to go home. I don't trust myself behind the wheel." I got the car from the valet while she freshened up. Elsie lived in a cute, stylish home about 8 miles from my place, in a quiet, trendy neighborhood. On the way, she kept repeating how glad she was that I came out and how she hoped it helped me forget about her daughter's betrayal. At her place, she fumbled with her keys. I helped her open the garage and walked her inside. Once the door was locked behind us, she turned and pulled something from her purse. "I took these off in the restroom," she said with a little giggle. She handed me a pair of lacy panties. I turned red as a beet. Before I could say anything, she let her skirt drop to the floor. "What are you doing?" I asked, stunned. Instead of answering, she undid her blouse, revealing her bra underneath. I had always figured she had a beautiful figure beneath her modest clothes, but seeing it was something else entirely. She walked up and kissed me on the cheek, the neck, my shoulder. Dakota, she whispered, I've been carrying this loneliness for years. I need you. Just for tonight. When her hands moved to the front of my pants, all reason flew out the window. I picked her up and carried her to the bedroom. My only thought was, I'm going to regret this in the morning. We made love, and afterward, as I lay there trying to process everything, she cuddled against me and said, please stay. I have never woken up next to someone I love. Love. I thought. What was happening? Despite that, I was too drained to think straight. I fell asleep with her in my arms. That night, I had dream after dream, vivid ones. I usually do not remember my dreams, but these were crystal clear. Each one was about her. In the last dream, we made love again, and to my surprise, when I woke up, it was real. She was already awake, staring into my eyes. Thank you, she whispered, for the best night and morning of my life. She kissed me softly, and we talked while lying there, still not fully aware of what this all meant. She then said something that stayed with me. Let's take a shower together. It sounded innocent, but something about the way she said it told me this was new for her. Maybe it was her first time showering with someone she truly cared about. Afterward, she made breakfast wearing just a short robe, humming to herself like a teenager in love. She looked radiant, happier than I had ever seen her. After we ate, I insisted on doing the dishes while she got dressed. When she came out in shorts and a blouse, I could not believe how young she looked. She drove me home and asked, almost shyly, would you mind if I saw your apartment? I've never been inside. Of course, I said. When we got to the bedroom, she stopped and looked at me with big, green eyes. Dakota, she said softly, would you make love to me in your bed? I did not have the will to say no. Her sweetness, the intimacy we had just shared, it overwhelmed me. We undressed each other. I tore a button off my shirt in the process. We made love again, slow and intense. Then we lay there, smiling like kids. Did you enjoy that? She asked. I did, I said, breathless. But I don't think I could keep up with this every day. My body feels like it's been hit by a truck. She laughed and gave me a back rub. I returned the favor. About an hour passed before she asked, am I keeping you from something today? My plans changed the moment last night happened. I replied, how about a movie tonight? She lit up. Actually, why not come over? I'll make dinner, and we can watch something on my big television. Sounds great. What time? Come at 5:30. You can help me chop vegetables while I ruin a roast. I laughed. Deal. After she left, I sat down and put my face in my hands. What am I doing? I muttered. This is your mother-in-law, for crying out loud. What happens if Ayana finds out? I remembered how Elsie said she loved me. Not liked. Loved. Still, I decided to go with the flow for the weekend. And I have to admit, it turned out to be one of the best weekends of my life. We cooked together, watched half a movie before moving things to the couch, and then the bedroom. On Sunday, we went to her gym, worked out, then hiked through the woods. We even made love in the backseat of my car, parked under the trees. That night, we ended up back in her bed, tangled together once again. By Monday morning, I felt better than I had in years. But right after breakfast, she turned to me and said, Dakota, can we talk before you leave for work? Sure, I said. She took a deep breath and said, please let me speak without you interrupting, okay? I need to get this out. I nodded and held her hand. She began, I loved you the day I met you. You are the only man I've ever truly loved. She went on, explaining how she knew it would never work long term. She was older. I might want kids, something she could not give me. And she did not want to hurt Ayana more than she already had. She said she did not expect me to love her back, but would accept whatever I could offer. I will always be here for you, she finished. I was speechless. She stood up. Go on. You have work. I am sorry for taking up your morning. I kissed her. I have a lot to think about. Please don't be upset if I keep to myself for a while. This weekend turned my world upside down. She smiled, kissed me one last time, and playfully pushed me out the door. For the next 2 weeks, my mind was a mess. Karen, Ayana, the sex, the guilt, the dreams. Always the dreams about her, us, even having children together. It was overwhelming. I called Elsie every day. Just short chats. She never pushed. Just talked about her day, her charity work, or the weather. The only mention of Ayana came when she said, my daughter asked me the other day if I was seeing someone. Said I looked the happiest I've ever looked. Elsie told her nothing. Just smiled. 2 weeks had gone by since that whirlwind weekend when everything changed. I invited Elsie over to my place for dinner on a Saturday night. She said yes without hesitation. I did not have any particular plan, to be honest. I just wanted to see how we got along when we were not tangled up between the sheets, just a regular evening together. We talked, we laughed, and we ended up back at her place. We made love twice that night, and every time I touched her, it felt like something deeper was forming. I could feel it happening. I was falling for her. Hard. Still, there was that voice in my head reminding me she was 11 years older than me. And more than that, she was my ex-wife's mother. It was hard to think clearly with all that swirling around in my head. I was not sure what kind of future we could have, if any. But somehow, despite all the odds, our relationship made it through the final stages of my divorce from Ayana. Right after the paperwork was signed and the ink was dry, Elsie took Ayana on a cruise, just the two of them, mother and daughter, for a week. When she got back, she told me that the trip had helped Ayana process everything. The bitterness she had felt toward me had mostly faded. She had finally accepted that it was her own mistakes that brought the marriage down. I asked Elsie, "Did she ask about your love life?" She paused for a while, then nodded. "Yes, she did." "What did you say?" I asked gently. Another pause. Then she answered, "I told her that I was happy, but I wasn't sure where the relationship was going yet, and that I had no plans to introduce her to anyone. Not yet. Honestly, I probably would have kept tiptoeing around the future for months, or maybe years, if not for what happened next." By this point, Elsie and I were spending time together at least 3 nights a week. We talked every day. She had become a huge part of my life. It was strange to admit, but my relationship with her, despite all its complications, was deeper and healthier than the one I had with Ayana in over 5 years of marriage. Elsie had once told me she thought she could not have children again. She had tried with her late husband Thomas, but it never happened. After giving birth to Ayana, a doctor had told her that another pregnancy was unlikely, though she never remembered exactly why. I never pressured her about it. I had come to terms with it. Still, it was something I'd always wanted deep down, a family. Then, out of nowhere, came the moment that changed everything. It was a Friday afternoon, and we had plans that evening to see a play. I was looking forward to it. But just after lunch, I got a call at work. It was Elsie. She was crying, her voice trembling. She begged me to come to her house right away. I left work early and got there a little after 3 o'clock. She opened the door, her face stained with tears, and immediately collapsed into my arms. I held her and let her cry for several minutes before gently guiding her to the couch. "Okay," I said softly, taking her hands. "Tell me what's going on." She shook her head, her voice broken. "I swear I didn't plan for this. I didn't think this was even possible. Please don't hate me. You can leave if you want to." My mind was spinning. I had no idea what she meant. I leaned forward, looked her straight in the eyes. "Elsie, just talk to me. Tell me what's on your mind." She sniffled, wiped her face, and finally took a breath. "I'm 7 weeks pregnant." I was stunned, completely frozen in place. We had talked before about how unlikely it was. She had told me with deep regret that she could not have children. And now this. I must have gone completely quiet. Elsie must have thought I was upset or panicking because her crying got worse, shaking, gasping, like her whole body was breaking down. I honestly feared she might pass out. Then, something in me cleared. I looked at her, this woman I had grown to care for more than anyone, and I realized the truth. I loved her. I loved her deeply. And I wanted this. All of it. I cupped her cheeks in my hands, wiped her tears with my thumbs, and whispered, "Stop crying. I need to ask you something." She did not stop crying right away. I had to say it over and over before she finally looked at me. "Will you make me the happiest man alive and marry me?" It took her a moment to fully understand what I had just said. But once she did, her tears changed. She smiled wide, threw her arms around me, and said, "Yes." We held each other tightly, whispering back and forth how much we loved each other. And then we heard it. The front door opened. "Mom? Are you here?" It was Ayana's voice. We froze. She stepped into the living room and saw us together. First, her face was confused. Then it shifted to shock. "What are you doing here, Dakota?" she asked. I could not speak. And then, Elsie, in a moment of pure panic, or maybe just honesty, blurted out, "I'm 7 weeks pregnant with Dakota's child, and we're getting married." At first, Ayana's face looked like she thought it was a joke. Then she saw the truth in my eyes, in the way we were holding each other. Her legs buckled. I caught her before she hit the ground and carried her to the same couch Elsie and I had been sitting on. Elsie rushed off to grab smelling salts and a cold towel. Before she used them, she turned to me and said gently, "I think it would be best if you go now, before she wakes up." She paused, gave me a tiny smile. "Can we go ring shopping tomorrow?" I nodded. "Of course. Just call and tell me what time to pick you up." We kissed once more, deep and certain. Then I left. I gave the theater tickets to a friend and his wife. They were thrilled. I even offered to babysit their kids sometime to return the favor. But the next day, we did not go shopping for rings. Elsie called around noon. "Ayana's staying the night," she told me. "It might take us the whole weekend to talk things through." I understood. "I love you," I said. "We'll go shopping whenever you're ready." Before we hung up that Saturday, Elsie chuckled and said, "Let's go ring shopping Monday, if we can." "Hopefully Monday," I echoed, smiling as I ended the call. I never got a full rundown of the conversation she had with Ayana that weekend, but I knew one thing for sure: Elsie loved her daughter deeply. No matter what had happened between Ayana and me, that bond between mother and daughter was something sacred. They had leaned on each other for years before I came into the picture. Karen, Elsie, made it clear to me that she had told Ayana the full truth. She had not crossed any emotional or physical lines with me until my marriage was truly over. She respected boundaries, even when her heart had been pulling her in another direction. Elsie knew how strange and painful the situation might be for Ayana. She also knew that she could not push her daughter away. Ayana was part of her soul, and she needed her just as much now as ever before. To her credit, Ayana handled it with far more grace than I expected. Despite her own hurt, she genuinely wanted her mother to be happy. She even said she was excited at the idea of having a younger sibling. That touched me more than I could say. Though Ayana and I had no plans to stay close, we talked once. I told her the truth, that I never meant to hurt her, that I wished her nothing but peace and happiness, and that I would always treat her with dignity. I think she understood. What happened between us had long been broken before Elsie came into the picture the way she did. Falling in love with Elsie was never part of the plan. It just happened, and I could not deny it. Now, if there was one unexpected challenge after all this, it was Elsie's pregnancy-enhanced sex drive. She joked that after going so long without real intimacy, she was making up for lost time. And I sure was not going to complain. We were passionately connected in every way, physically, emotionally, spiritually, until she was 8 months and 1 week along. At that point, we hit pause and waited until a couple months after our daughter arrived. Yes, our daughter, Emma. A beautiful, healthy baby girl. Elsie and I got married in a quiet ceremony 2 months before Emma was born. Nothing flashy, just something simple and meaningful. Ayana stood by Elsie's side as a bridesmaid. We wanted to honor her presence in our lives, not ignore it. I had long since forgiven her. My grudge, if I had one, was not with her. It was with George. Karen had assured me that her daughter had cut off all ties with him once the divorce had begun, but I needed closure. So I looked into him. I tracked George's activity for a few days with help from a private investigator, and when I found out he was engaged, I sent his fiancée a full, honest report on his affair with Ayana and the damage it caused. A week later, George's engagement was over. He moved out of state. That was all the justice I needed. When Emma turned 15 months, Elsie and I started talking about having another child. We both wanted it, but we knew another pregnancy wasn't likely or healthy for her. With financial help left behind by Thomas, we went through egg retrieval. One of her eggs was fertilized with my sperm, and a surrogate carried our baby boy. When he was born, we named him Ethan. Emma and Ethan are now 6 and 5 years old. Watching them grow has been the greatest gift of my life. I never imagined love could go so deep. Every single day, I look at Elsie and feel lucky beyond measure. Even after everything we've been through, our connection, physical and emotional, is stronger than ever. And there's one more piece to this story. Ayana found someone too. She married a man both Elsie and I genuinely like. And she's expecting a baby girl next month. I sometimes wonder how our children and hers will connect. What kind of relationship will they have? Will they be cousins? Have siblings in a way? I do not know, and I stopped trying to make sense of it. All I do know is this: Elsie has a heart that never runs out of love. She will love that little girl just as fiercely as she loves Emma and Ethan. And I will love her as long as I live.